Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this. As I'm sure everybody knows, anytime any sort of situation develops on the Korean Peninsula, the U.S. bourgeois media can be counted upon to reality beyond recognition. Is this? Is? How about that? Better now? How about that? There we go. Okay. In any case, like I said, the bourgeois media can be counted upon to distort the situation on the peninsula into near beyond recognition. The current situation, at least as far as the bourgeois press is concerned, started with an underground nuclear test that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea conducted on, I think it was the 25th. There's a number of lies that the bourgeois media has been aggressively pushing, and I'm going to try and cover those and sort of try and blow those up. Firstly, one thing that they try to drum into people over and over again is that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a dangerous rogue state that doesn't respect international law. The reality is that Korean People's Army troops have never ever been deployed anywhere outside the Korean Peninsula. North Korea has never started a single war in its history. The Korean War was provoked by the South through the use of fascist paramilitaries and regular army troops to raid northern villages. Millions of Koreans died in that war, including civilians, compared to the 53,000 U.S. troops that lost their lives. I'd be here for several hours if I had to list all of the U.S.'s violations of international law, as well as all the countries it has bombed or invaded. The amount of chutzpah it takes for the U.S. to accuse Korea of being a rogue state is astounding. The second charge that's hurled at People's Korea in the press is that the nuclear test is in violation of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. What Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty? Out of 180 countries that signed the treaty, only 148 have actually ratified it. In fact, according to the treaty, in order for it to be valid, all 44 of the countries that have nuclear weapons must ratify the treaty in order for it to be valid. Only 9 of those 44 countries haven't ratified it. Amazingly, that rich white guy club some people call the U.S. Senate has refused to ratify the treaty, which is the main obstacle to its taking effect. Most military analysts say that People's Korea has about 4 nuclear weapons. The U.S. has over 10,000 all over the world, many of them highly mobile, mounted on submarines. People's Korea has conducted 2 nuclear tests, one in 2006 and one underground test this week. The U.S. has conducted 1,032 nuclear tests, many of which have sickened and killed thousands of Pacific Islanders. That means that Korea has 1,030 tests left to conduct and 9,996 weapons left to be built before it reaches U.S. levels of proliferation. To put Korea's nuclear program into its proper context, the southern half of the peninsula is occupied by 28,500 U.S. troops, all of whom have much more sophisticated weaponry than the Korean People's Army. The Republic of Korea military, under its status of forces agreement with the U.S., is not even under Korean operational command. The U.S. and the Republic of Korea conduct a yearly mock invasion of People's Korea, and the U.S. calls these provocative actions war games. The third lie that has been being pushed in the U.S. media is that sanctions are necessary to rein in Korea's erratic behavior. Secretary of State Clinton has made several statements to the effect that she wants the U.S. to wind down its involvement in Iraq in order to focus on People's Korea and sees the tightening of sanctions on Korea as integral to this. The proposed sanctions could include an expansion of the current arms embargo, more invasive inspections of Korean property on land and sea, and a ban on the shipment of certain non-military goods, and a freeze on the nation's assets. Excuse me. Tightening the sanctions should be seen by the anti-imperialist movement as a way for the U.S. to partially disarm and soften up Korea as a prelude to further military action, as they did in Iraq. Japanese Prime Minister Taro Aso, who has been soft on rightist militarist forces who want to junk Japan's anti-militarist constitution, is pressing for a UN Security Council resolution condemning People's Korea, as well as advancing tougher sanctions. advocating tougher sanctions. Once sanctions are imposed, the Security Council vote is required to remove them, and we all know who calls the shots on the Security Council. And fourth, it's been said that that North Korea has repudiated the 1953 armistice. In actual fact, the 1953 armistice clearly states that both sides are barred from imposing naval blockades. On Tuesday, the Republic of Korea, at Washington's urging, joined the Proliferation Security Initiative, which would require the Republic of Korea Navy to stop and search any ship they suspect of transporting what they call weapons of mass destruction. Pyongyang has warned Seoul repeatedly against joining the PSI, saying that it considered it not only a violation of the armistice, but an act of war. In fact, the Korean Central News Agency published a statement the other day on that, saying that we consider this a declaration of war against us. Any hostile act against our peaceful vessels, including search and seizure, will be considered an unpardonable infringement on our sovereignty, and we will immediately respond with a powerful military strike. And, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. Republic of Korea search and seizure operations have been used before by Washington to provoke People's Korea. Specifically, there were 2 incidents in 1999 and 2002 that resulted in the deaths of 6 South Korean sailors and more than 30 North Korean sailors. On Wednesday, the Republic of Korea sent a 3,500-ton destroyer to North Korea's western maritime border, which is a clear provocation since this border has been disputed since the war. In closing, I'd like to read a statement that was issued by Manik Mukherjee, who is General Secretary of the International Anti-Imperialist and People's Solidarity Coordinating Committee. We just received this email, I think, yesterday. The People's Solidarity Coordinating Committee expresses its full support to all genuine efforts to maintain and promote world peace and confirms that it is committed to its stand of demanding a totally nuclear weapons-free world. However, it is firmly of the view that there is no moral or ethical justification of the policy that would allow some states to keep their stock of nuclear arsenals, but prevent others from developing any nuclear defensive capability. This is the policy of the imperialist powers like the USA, other nuclearly armed states, including in India, who are not only maintaining their nuclear weapons stock, but are augmenting it, and at the same time are criticizing other nations who want to develop nuclear defensive capability. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a socialist country which stands by the struggle of the common people all over the world against imperialist aggression, oppression, and exploitation. The toiling masses of the world that look upon People's Korea as their staunch ally and firmly assert that Korea has every right to defend itself from imperialist aggression and has the right to develop its nuclear defense capability. It is in the interests of the defense of the common people of the world that People's Korea should have this capability. Along with the people of the world, this committee endorses this right, and we couldn't be in more full agreement with that sentiment. And as a matter of fact, we published an editorial in this week's paper defending People's Korea's right to defend itself.